Oh man, do we have a great show today. But first, I know you guys are liking these giveaways, and this time it's going to be the best one yet. Are you ready? For this giveaway, I want to invite you to join me for dinner at one of my favorite restaurants. That's right. You heard me right. Fine dining with the great Eldersky. We can talk about anything you want, and I'll answer all your questions. Well, most of them. And it'll be a great time for sure. So hurry up and go to winlarry.com to sign up. I'll be announcing the winner live on February 22nd, so make sure to stay tuned. And last but not least, a big thank you to everybody who joined the giveaway for this mug. And you better use it every time you watch the show. I know where you live. Now let's get into today's show, shall we? In a speech about abortion, Harris cited from the Declaration of Independence and left out a very important word: life.
America is a promise. It is a promise of freedom and liberty. Not for some, but for all. A promise we made in the Declaration of Independence, that we are each endowed with the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness.
Notice when she speaks, she goes, "We are endowed with the right." What is that? Now, joining me to discuss this is the author of a piece in the Washington Examiner called "Has Vice President Kamala Harris Actually Read the Declaration of Independence?" Please welcome back to the program, Christopher Tremoli. Christopher, what is it about her delivery that is so off-putting?
I feel she's trying to deliver a speech as if she were Dr. Martin Luther King, but it just doesn't work because all her mannerisms and rhetoric and just everything she tries to do just seems overly fake and contrived.
All right. Did she write that speech? Did somebody else write that speech? Did the speechwriter have the word life in there and then Kamala Harris took it out? What do you think happened?
Well, one, I would say I do not think she wrote the speech. And my snarkiness in my article aside, I do think she probably knows life of liberty and pursuit of happiness is in the Declaration of Independence. So I would say that I think that she omitted it purposely, or at least the person who reviewed the speech before she gave it publicly omitted it purposely, specifically for the fact that the right to life is pretty much the impetus for the pro-life movement itself and against all abortion. So it was clearly political scheming and political theater on her end for sure.
It's interesting. You know, we argue that life begins at conception, and abortion is killing a human being, a life. So she leaves out the word life. She must clearly recognize that it seems awfully inconsistent to talk about the Declaration of Independence and then to be okay with abortion on demand.
Oh, absolutely. And she would leave herself open to even more widespread criticism if she did include the words right to life in there, because that was for, the main reason, one of the main reasons for the Declaration of Independence is, the right to life. And the fact that you can't come out wanting to kill babies and extinguish the right to life while quoting the Declaration of Independence and make it make sense in anyone else's world other than a Democrats or Kamala Harris's world. It doesn't add up. There's no logic there.
Are you having difficulty like Biden pronouncing Kamala?
Yeah, I do. I did kind of I wanted to embrace my inner president and stumbled over that. So.
Now, as you know, a large percentage of babies aborted are black babies, something that the civil rights establishment and the left doesn't seem to care too much about, doesn't seem to want to acknowledge. They certainly don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's kind of been one of those things that's been swept under the rug by the left because of this exact issue, that it impacts the black community as much as it does. And it's a shame because, giving her racial heritage and her ethnic, ethnic background, Vice President Harris, it kind of came out. You would think that she'd be one of the people who would see how detrimental and destructive abortion actually is. However, she just clearly, at this point, is just kind of toting the Democrat line and following her, left-wing overlords, so to speak, of just trying to promote why abortion should be legal and allowed. And it's just kind of a disgrace in my opinion. And it's even more disgraceful that if you're going to quote, try to quote, I should say, one of the greatest documents in the history of the world, you omit probably one of the most important parts of it in the right to life, and it just goes to show you how radicalized and how unhinged, I would say, intellectually unhinged Democrats are.
Take somebody like Margaret Sanger, who basically started Planned Parenthood. She believed, Chris, as you know, in eugenics. She gave a speech before the Women's Auxiliary of the KKK, and basically she argued that certain people were just not worthy of living, including poor black people who really can't make it on their own. And she was, until fairly recently, lionized by the left.
Oh, absolutely. And that's another thing that's just swept under the rug is Sanger, and again for the specific purpose of the fact that it doesn't go along with the left's messaging or contemporary messaging, I should say, regarding abortion. Because if it would, I mean, obviously, probably one of the most important things to Democrats today, as you well know, is race. So if abortion could in any way remotely be perceived as an attack on Black Americans or an act of racism, it would pretty much be self-destructive and kind of sabotage all their efforts to promoting that. And left-wingers and feminists know that, so that's why they tried to hide the inconvenient truth of what was said about abortion and its origins.
Well, despite the U.S. blowing right through the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling in January, the leftist White House still refuses to reduce spending. While our national leadership has buried their heads in the sand when it comes to fiscal responsibility, it is time to pull yours out. Now would be a great time to diversify into gold with Birch Gold. In times of high uncertainty and instability, gold is king. It's dependable. Birch Gold makes it easy to convert an IRA or 401k into an IRA in precious metals. Here's what you need to do. Visit LarryForGold.com to claim your free info kit on gold and then talk to one of their precious metal specialists. Think about this. To dig our country out of this mountain of debt, every single taxpayer in America would have to write a check for $247,000, and it's only getting worse. Protect yourself with gold today by visiting LarryForGold.com. With an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, thousands of happy customers, and countless 5-star reviews, you can trust Birch Gold to protect your future. Visit LarryForGold.com today. That's LarryForGold.com right now. Another inconvenient truth, Chris, is back in 1977, someone wrote probably one of the most compelling pieces against abortion I've ever read. 7 years later, he ran for president and ran as a pro-life Democrat. I'm talking about Jesse Jackson. If you haven't read it, I urge you to go online and take a look at it. Just Google 1977, Jesse Jackson's piece on his opposition to abortion. It really is quite compelling. How do you go from being pro-life to being pro-choice in 7 years? And you're a pastor.
Well, that's the main thing I think you pointed out there is, as a pastor, and it boggles my mind how any pastor in any religion in the world can support abortion. And unfortunately, I think that goes to show the power of the left's global network and reach and influence, that they can corrupt people of faith, people of the cloth, to believe such evil, demonic things, and go from like you said, pro-life to, in 7 years, flipping. But I mean, as we have seen, whether it was Jesse Jackson or President Joe Biden or former President Barack Obama or Vice President Harris, the flipping one's beliefs to adhere to contemporary ideology or a messaging, and trying to get votes and persuade public opinion and get public support is a pretty unique, not a pretty common tactic by Democrats and the left.
Finally, Chris, I want to get your take on this, the Dobbs decision that overturned Roe v. Wade. I never felt that the Supreme Court should have taken up Roe v. Wade. This is an issue that belongs to the states, and now it's been returned to the states. And a lot of people believe, and I'm one of them, that the reversal of Roe v. Wade might very well have cost us some seats in the House and maybe even control of the Senate. So what? It was the right thing to have done. One study says tens of thousands of lives are here now as a result of the reversal of Roe v. Wade. So if that's the price, I'm more than willing to pay it.
I absolutely agree. And I think that was a couple Republicans had made that comment as well. And I kind of took issue with it because, like, what's the point of fighting for this stuff and fighting for the lives of the unborn if all that matters is just political power and elections? Like, yeah, okay, so maybe you could be argued that we lost some seats this time around, but look at, like you said, one, consider all the lives that were saved. Two, then if that's the case, then Republicans need to get to work and stop dilly-dallying on changing the culture and pro-life messaging and showing why abortion is an evil and it isn't an actual woman's right to choose, and they don't have control over their body because it's the infant's bodies and the child's body inside the womb that is the one who suffers the repercussions from abortion. So if this was if this was a setback of sorts, then I think it's a necessary setback to kind of reposition for the future. As the saying goes, one step backward to go two step forward. So
right.
I'll be fine with that as well.
Chris, we also have to put the left on the spot and ask them at what point do they think a pregnancy has gone so far that to abort a child is murder? My opponent, Gavin Newsom, will not answer that question. Most Democrats won't answer that question because most Americans do not support late-term abortions. But almost none of them will talk about whether or not they feel at some point an abortion is murder.
Yeah, and that's they kind of always position that, right, to say, the right to choose or my body, my choice is the contemporary messaging. And it's been that way for a while, so I wouldn't even say contemporary. But it's just the fact that you want to talk about, the murder. That's probably why, if I had to guess, why, Vice President Harris omitted rights to life from her speech, because she knows it is murder, and doing, kind of promoting that infanticide, that demonic, act is, an illegal thing overall that, should be shamed and shouldn't be celebrated or honored or, have any positive support at all.
Well, you're in Philadelphia. The logical extension of that argument, Chris, is that Dr. Gosnell, who's behind bars for late-term abortions, is a political prisoner.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's never actually thought about that, but that's a good point. Yeah, well, then and it's sad because, had that occurred in today, I'm not really sure Gosnell would have been accused of or convicted of any crime or arrested at all. Or be in jail. There would be a liberator of sorts, or an advocator and advancement of women's rights in today's world, given especially what Congress, the Democrats in Congress did just a few weeks ago.
Chris Tremoli, Washington Examiner. Chris, as always, thanks for coming on. I love the black shirt. Got that Nathan Detroit thing happening.
I had to kind of keep up with your par. My appearances weren't up to par snuff lately, so
you got it.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thank you. Now be sure to hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. And then scroll down, you'll see where you can join our mailing list. Why? Well, because every now and then, for reasons that escape us, YouTube has an issue with some of our vids. So to make sure you don't miss any of our videos, you got to get on our mailing list. Also, you see that big round donate button? Hit that. Throw a little something in the tip jar to make sure we can still give you hard-hitting programs. Remember, LarryWithEpoch.com. That's EPOCH, LarryWithEpoch.com.